Welcome back, John, again to my channel. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. I love doing interviews with you, as I know that our audience loves all of the questions that you answer for us. So welcome back again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for those that are new and may not know John, John is a very famous writer of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And so we're really lucky to have him here with all of his insight and his wisdom. And today we're firstly going to start off and check in with you and just sort of see what do you think is happening today in terms of the rise with single people, even, you know, both men and women. What are some of the causes for this happening?
Well, the world has changed. As women have gone more to their male side, sometimes they can't get back to their female side, which knows that having a relationship would be wonderful. You know, we tend to take action based upon our motivations. And when you're in touch with your female side, you feel the need to be supported by another. Okay, the need to be supported. That's called intimacy. Come inside of me, see me, hear me, touch me, love me. And that's a felt need. Now we've advanced as a civilization so far that if that need is not fulfilled or felt, we feel like something's missing in our life and we don't know what it is. For example, you know, we know the whole COVID thing's been going on and people have been going to the hospital. Most people, they don't publicize this, but your risk of going to a hospital is zero if your vitamin D levels are at 50. You know, mine are at like 80, you know, because I'm outside, I'm healthy, I do exercise, I'm 70 years old. But you can't, nobody goes to the hospital with COVID symptoms or anything unless your vitamin D levels are very low. So young people tend to have higher vitamin D levels and they're out in the sunshine, they use their bodies and whatever. And so you have to, that'd be like, I have a need for vitamin D and I don't realize it. You know, if people realize they needed it, they've either be taking pills for it or they would be outside. Okay. But they don't know they need it. So they're not motivated. But if every night on TV, they said, you know, if you've got COVID, you got to get your vitamin D levels tested and you've got to take supplements or natural solutions for raising your vitamin D levels because there's no drugs or anything that will raise your vitamin D. So strengthen your immune system. So what are you doing to not strengthen your immune system? And then, so if people knew that, they would do that, right? And there's other things as well, but that's one factor they could do. So when you know what you need, you're naturally drawn to fulfilling that. If you don't know you need something, you don't have a lot of motivation. When I was younger and I needed money, boy, I was really motivated to go out and make money. That was like really, really important to me because it's what I needed for my sense of security and my sense of inclusion. So, you know, you ask what's going on today. There's a change in consciousness on the planet.
Yes.
For the better if we can work with it. The Maslow said 80 years ago, most people know about Maslow. He had a formula which is called hierarchy of needs. And if you're not secure, if basically as human beings, our lowest need is survival. And so when you're cold, all you think about is getting warm. If you're out in the rain, all you think about is getting under a bridge, okay, or finding a home. That's survival, all right? So that's like really important. If there's a lion, all you care about, you're not going to care about, gee, nobody loves me. You're going to care about escaping from that lion. So survival is very, very important. When your survival is pretty much taken care of, when you feel you can take care of your survival, then the next need that comes up is security, the need for security. And we all have these needs. It's just how important are they? How much do we feel them? So security, hunger, for example, when you're hungry, if you don't eat, that's your survival need. Oh boy, you need to eat. But let's say you don't eat for a while. Let's say, you know, go fast for 3 days. Suddenly now you're back down to your survival need. When you eat food, it will taste delicious.
Yes.
Delicious. Okay. Intimacy, when you feel the need for it, is delicious. But if you don't feel the need for it, it doesn't satisfy you. So the lower need is survival. The next need is security, where we need to feel, you know, once we have things, we want to hold on to it. That's security, feel safe. Next one, according to Maslow, is pretty accepted theory everywhere, is when your security and survival are pretty much guaranteed, Then suddenly achievement, inclusion. You want to be part of a group. Okay. And you want to be a family, a team, a Republican, a Democrat. you want to be part of your team. Okay. So now, and you'll compete. Okay. That's a basic need, to be part of a team. The next need up is the need to achieve. Okay. To become better, to, educate ourselves, to make more money, to do better. What can I do? What can I do? And how better can I be? Can I be forgiving? Can I be loving? Can I be happy? People, read books on how to be happy. Okay, that's a higher need. Nobody in survival cares about happiness. They don't care about that. Suddenly we all want to be happy. We want to feel love. We want to feel confident. So that's all achievement, whether it be on a feeling level or behavioral level. So there's achievement. Then the next need, once you feel like some confidence and reassurance that I can achieve, the next level up is intimacy. So when you feel good about yourself, whenever I do something, I feel good about, I did that, I feel good about myself. Then what that means, that need has been satisfied. I achieved something. So then what comes up is the need for intimacy. And when that comes up, we're not going to be happy unless we fulfill that need, but we have to feel it. And unfortunately, there's a block to feeling that. And that's where we are in society today. We're in a place where, unless we're down in the fear level, then it's not so important. But basically, this higher need, it's like suddenly people care about relationships, meaning we care about romance, we care about sex, power, passion. Let me give you a distinction. People don't realize how the world has changed. So here's a real clear one. Historically, men wanted women to have sex with them. Of course, we always want to have sex, men. It's a deep urge to find a woman to have sex with. It's very primitive. Now, if you go to Israel, the only reason for divorce is if your wife will not have sex with you. This is the ancient tradition. Yeah, that's the only thing. You can't have a divorce. If she's having sex with you, you can't divorce. And if she doesn't have sex with you, sex with an obligation. It's an obligation. This is around the world. I mean, in Russia, I've counseled women all over the place. And, it's like, well, I don't really enjoy sex. I just do it because that's what men need. And so I do it for them. Okay. Wow. If you ask men today, do you want a woman who is happy to oblige your need for sex? And she'll satisfy you whenever you want. Is that what you want? But she's really doing it out of obligation and not out of desire. Most people say, no, I don't want that. Yeah. I'm not satisfied in sex unless she is also enjoying sex. That's why you'll see, if you've been in relationships with men and you have sex with them, men will tend to say, did you have an orgasm? Did you have an orgasm? They want to know you had an orgasm. And why is that? Because if you have an orgasm, you clearly enjoyed having sex with him. Okay, that's the sign that you really enjoy it. That I hit the bell, that I do it. Men in the past didn't care about that. What a huge difference. Men today care about women's happiness more than ever, rather than being responsible husbands. And she's a responsible wife, like the business of a family. Suddenly, we want to have passion. We want to have romance. And the reason people aren't getting married is they can't satisfy that need. They don't know how to satisfy that need. And we have a lot of different reactions to when we can't satisfy a need. And it would be my favorite story from Aesop's Fables. When I was a little boy, my mother would read this story to me. I always remember it. It's like such an amazing story. It's called, what's it called? Sour Grapes. Have you ever heard the story Sour Grapes?
I haven't, but I think I may have heard you mention this sour grapes or someone.
So Sour Grapes is a story of a fox, and he's hungry, and then he sees grapes on the hillside gleaming in the sunshine. I want those grapes. I can't wait to have those grapes. I'm so excited to have those grapes. And he runs and he runs and he gets there, and then he sees a big fence around the grapes. And it's a big hill, so he has to go really high to get over that fence. And he tries and he tries, and he can't get over the fence. And so then he looks at those grapes and he goes, they're not that good anyway. I don't think I need those grapes. They look pretty bad after all. What's the reason to get grapes? I don't need those. That's called denying a need. And that's called sour grapes. And women today and men have sour grapes about relationships. They have this expectation that they're going to have this romance last, and they don't know yet how to achieve that, because old-fashioned relationship remedies and customs and strategies are now not working. They will not work on a modern woman. It will not work on a modern man. So the inability to sustain interest and passion and to be turned on by each other quickly goes away. Yes. And they do not know how to keep it going. So why bother? So you go into what's called a denial of need. It's an everybody has it. It's a mechanism in our body to avoid feeling pain. We have all kinds of mechanisms. So you look at a more of exaggerated form of sour grapes, which is all unconscious. It's if you have pain, your body will go into denial of the pain automatically. You have no choice over it. So if you look at an extreme example, helps to illustrate this, is that if you had in China, when there was a one child, I teach a lot in China as well, Russia, all around the world. So I know different cultures. Men and women are still different. There are little differences in their culture, but the differences are all there. It's universal. But what a child will go through, whether it be a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter, this one. If they're thrown out, usually the girls were thrown out, okay, because they wanted a boy, because a boy in their culture could protect them. What's interesting is before the one child policy, this is just a little tidbit I think everybody enjoy hearing, is the idea was to have many children. It's just the opposite. They went from one extreme to the other. And and I said, well, why do they want to have many children? And it's because you'd have your own army. A funny thought. You're literally raising your children to have more children, so they become your clan. Wow. So there's the clan, you're the head of the clan, but you've got an army to protect you, because if you had more than others, people would come and steal it. That's at the level of security. You had to have an army, and kids would give you that army. And boys, in a culture where strength and muscle mass was most important for warrior skills, you wanted a boy for that. Okay. And the boy, also the customs were such that when you have a male, the wife moves in with the clan. Okay? If you marry a female, the male doesn't go to the clan, because that male is protector for this family. So that was all understood. So that was all survival. That's all low level stuff. It doesn't apply now. We think that's crazy. In America, this becomes so crazy. One of the greatest men in our history was Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Constitution. Yes. This is an amazing document of where people had a flash of the new age that was to come, where people could all be equal, where people have the right, the freedom for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't control them. Now the control freaks have come in, the tyranny has come in. You can't do this. You can't do this, all this control. Same thing happens in marriages. We control our partners. Anytime you're unhappy with your partner, that is a control mechanism. It's a primitive control mechanism. If we are loving human beings, the only reason we're not feeling love and gratitude and happiness and excitement and enthusiasm and pride, all those things, is because we haven't conditioned our brain to awaken those channels. They're all in our brain. They're in my brain. And as soon as anything upsets me, I shift gears. I become aware of what I'm feeling, and I go deeper into the feeling very quickly. Anytime you're angry, you're also afraid. Anytime you're sad, you're also feeling guilty. You're not really to look at it. So look at how I wish I could be. I'm not being that. You go to those levels of feeling that I teach in my book, right? In that What You Feel You Can Heal book. And miraculously, you feel better. And then positive feelings can come up. So I go from the negative to then affirm. I'm grateful, I'm happy, I'm excited, and I'm proud. See, these 4 levels would be anger. The opposite of anger is gratitude. Okay, I'm so grateful about this and this. So you can be angry about this over here, but you can be grateful for this over there. So they can live together. The world's not a perfect place. The old saying, the glass is half full or glass is half empty. It's both. Life is never perfect, but there's always good stuff. And you only go into stress and unhappiness and negativity and judgmentalness and criticalness and vengeance and poor communication, all this primitive stuff, when you're not balancing your negative view with your positive view. And that has nothing to do with your partner, has nothing to do with the world, the state of the situation. It has to do with your inability to know your true self. And that's what people want today through intimacy. We need intimacy, and those that have achieved some intimacy, if you can sustain it, then you get the glory of what's called self-actualization, a self-actualized person. Once you're a self-actualized person, then you experience unconditional love and compassion. That's my state of being. But I'm 70 years old. It took a long time to get there. So much wisdom, so much fun. I used to feel dread a bit with my counseling clients because I felt like they're so stuck, I can't solve their problems. And now I have so much wisdom. It's so easy to solve their problems. First of all, the most important thing is to realize people make up all their problems. So all you have to do is help them realize how they're making up their problems and a way to stop doing that. And that's what my books are, is these strategies and helpful things, and to hold the awareness that people come in with the worst problems and they think, I'll never be happy because of this problem and this problem. I go, I already know. Yes, you can be happy. You can't change the past, and you can't change the world to be everything you want it to be, but you can change this negativity inside of you, because who you are is already grateful and happy and excited and proud. You have a lot to be proud about. So it's there, it's already there. It's just leading someone back to that. And that's what in my book, What You Feel You Can Heal, first book I wrote, very simple book of having emotional intelligence. That's way beyond what the other books are saying is emotional intelligence. And those other books are very good, but they still don't teach people how to process those emotions so that you can then begin to understand reality and accept it and then make the best of it, which I've done in all my books. My first book being How to Process Emotions. People say, how did you learn all this stuff? Whenever there was stress, I took 100% responsibility. I came back to feeling love, and when you come back to place of love, you come back to place of wisdom, non-judgmentalness, and creativity. You have the creativity to solve the problem. So ultimately, self-actualization is great, but the foundation for it, meaning what self-actualization is to feel aligned with your mission and purpose and fulfilled and stress-free. I used to always wonder, who are these people that wake up and just look forward to their day and they love it, I just wake up and can't wait to go to work. Okay. That's self-actualized. That is a really healthy person. When you love your work and you feel you're contributing to others, and you love your partner and you love your family and your sex drive is healthy, all those aspects as a whole being, and we can all have it. And, to talk to somebody and read books of people that have achieved it is really, really shortcutting the whole process. So I'm really glad that I can be a shortcut for some people. So back to the answer to the question, why are twice as many people today are not getting married as 20 years ago? Twice as many people are single. What happened? Okay, what's going on? And what's going on one level is even role models. We don't have role models of people who can have relationships that look like what I want. It was interesting. I was doing another group session with people, and one man said, who doesn't argue with their wife 5 times a week? We get in it and we get out of it. And then another man says, we never fight, So the idea is you can have misunderstandings, you can have emotions come through, but you have the skills to gracefully move through it and understand your partner better. And that's what's possible. And that's called growing in love. You don't grow in love without being challenged. So life gets good, and then there's a challenge, you overcome it together, and then it gets better and better. How did I come up with all these examples in Men Are From Mars in my later books? Because I lived them through. But instead of growing apart, you grow closer.
Together.
You grow closer. And that's that need for intimacy. And with the foundation of intimacy, what that means is then you feel the need to self-actualize. And, a lot of people are out there wanting to, brain hackers and all these people want to do it, but they're not as successful at it because they're not fulfilling the deeper need, which is the need for intimacy. That's what gives you the juice to then let that come forth. So it's in everybody. We can become the best, fulfill our potential, experience this amazing unconditional love for life, for yourself, for others, the wisdom to make your life good, to be able to share and make a difference in others. We all want that quality, but we have to know how to get there. And the foundation for it today, because our society demands it of us, that we rise to this new level of fulfilling our need for intimacy. The big obstacle to it, nobody's teaching anybody how to achieve real intimacy. They're not teaching anybody.
And do you think that that's also, sorry, you continue, you go.
Well, just one idea there. If I look at my let me just see, I have a little note. About 30 minutes. When I look at my parents' relationship, they're very happy together. Their expectations were fulfilled. And so they were satisfied. They had moments of happiness. They were grateful, all those positive experiences, but their passion wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
today people demand passion. And what produces passion is when you have integrated even a glimpse of passion, there's an integration, a balancing and an integration of your masculine and feminine within.
Yes.
You have a masculine side, you're doing this show, you also enjoy doing it. That's the integration of your masculine and feminine. That's what we all want, is to have a career where we feel we enjoy it, we have it, we feel supported in it, we feel successful in it. That's the outer world of feeling the integration of the male and female. Many men go to jobs, the traditional male did not, he just did the grind. Life's a grind. Okay. Construction work, I mean, it's a grind. Not good for your health. But these men will do it without complaining because it makes more money, and that having more money, they can provide for a woman in their life. And that's the female side of life. He can have intimacy. He can experience love. He can feel love through her. And therefore he loves his work because he knows it's going to have that result. For example, in my work, I travel to China. Okay, that's a 12-hour flight. And even if you're in first class, it's still a drag to sit in an airplane all that time. I prefer to stay home. I don't know if I'm ever going to travel again now that COVID has happened. I can do everything on my computer. I love my home. I love my neighborhood. I love the trees. I love the people. I love my family. I don't have to go out anymore. But I do it to be of service. And if I can go out being of service on a computer, great. If I can't, then I'm happy to travel again. But really, if every week you're on a plane going somewhere for 8 hours, 9-hour flights, and you go to the airport and there's delays and there's people checking you now, who are you? Police all around you. Stupidity. They may travel so awful. At the same time, I cruise through it because I know when I get there, I'm going to make a big difference. And how do I know I'm going to make a big difference? This is the way the brain works. They pay me a lot of money. I mean, I get paid 10 times more in China than I do in America because they appreciate that the expert from afar is always more valuable. So I go there, they just outrageous amounts of money they pay me. So do you think I mind going through all of that to get there? Not at all. I'm just happy as could be because I anticipate that I will be successful. So I'll put up with whatever I have to go through. And in a sense, it's what religion kind of taught people in the past. They said, if you're righteous, even if you suffer, that's okay, because you'll be rewarded in heaven. It's just for me, I'm rewarded all the time. My life has become heaven, but because I'm able to self-actualize. But before that, and to sustain that success of self-actualizing and having the role, finding your place where you truly make a difference and your talents come more, is the foundation of that is you have to have your survival, your security, your achievement, your intimacy. These are like basic needs that we have. We need to feel them. Now, what happened in the 60s is this big awakening, and maybe it was a bigger part of it just after the World War II. It's after World War II, so many people died. It was so terrible, so horrible. It's kind of like couples have a big argument and then they have great sex afterwards. That does happen. And I don't recommend it for great sex. There's ways to have great sex without having to fight. But what happens is when couples do fight, and it's bad communication skills, but still we build up a pressure inside because we can't communicate and resolve our negativity. So what we can do is just express it, and temporarily it's gone. Temporarily. It's literally like it's blocked energy that wants to explode. So if you just explode, the energy's gone. But the blocks are still there. You see, the blocks are still there. But after the war, it was just such a huge explosion of negativity and people dying and grieving and horrible things and celebrating that the war is over. It's a time of peace. That was the 50s. Then suddenly we went to basically got more in touch with our feelings. Rock and roll stars came out, the Beatles came, and people orgasmic crowds of women and men. I was there when the Beatles came to my city, and I said, I'm not going to scream like all the women did on the TV. I got up with all the rest of them. Everybody was screaming. They came out on stage. You couldn't even hear the Beatles. There was so much screaming going on. That was a huge breakthrough. It was a phenomena. They called it the Beatlemania. It was a phenomena. And what it was is women were awakening to trusting men.
Yes.
For romantic feelings. See, these sweet songs for men in harmony, singing love songs, love is all there is. And I want to hold your hand, just the most innocent, beautiful lyrics. And what's interesting is they were so attractive because these guys were actually very masculine. John Lennon would like get in fights, he'd beat people up, and that's a lower level of masculinity, but it's like, don't mess with me. Okay. And they had a lot of really bad masculine traits, as a matter of fact, but that's masculine energy, at least led the wrong way. And then suddenly they had a gay director or producer, and he had them look just the opposite, like all so sweet and sensitive, cute little haircuts. And there I was as a teenager, like everybody in the 60s, guys who were a bit more advanced. I grew my hair out. I went to my female side, my creative side. I demonstrated for peace and the war, no Vietnam. See, this was what, I'm from Texas. You go to war, you fight for your family. That's a man's way to do it. Suddenly I'm like, free sex. You don't wait till you're married. Don't make a commitment. Just freely have sex. No commitments in life. Enjoy yourself. Do what you like. Enjoy your life. Take drugs. Total pleasure, love, joy. And that's all female. See, that's our female side. Anything has to do with enjoying and liking and loving and kindness, that's all feminine. Why do I say it's feminine?
Yeah.
Because whenever women need 10 times more estrogen than men, they need 20 times more estrogen to experience ovulation and make babies. They're designed to make babies, and the body has to be working correctly. And anything that allows you do what you like, you do what you enjoy, you're not going to experience any stress. Your estrogen levels go up. When women are stressed, their estrogen levels are low. This is just reality. This is biology. So I've been able to define in my book, Beyond Mars and Venus, what are the masculine side of us? What are the characteristics of our masculine side? And what are the characteristics of a feminine side? And I explain it biologically. Once you know the characteristics, if you're unhappy, this only applies when you're not feeling in love with life and needing intimacy. Okay, feeling the need for intimacy. Because that's our world now. We want love. We want romance. I travel around the world in every culture. I say, you're all here and this is people who want relationship seminars. I know it's a selective group, but that's the people listening to you. So we're the same group. But I say, what is it you want? I give them a conflict resolution and various types of needs that people could have. Learn from me. I can tell them how to manage stress, how to process your emotions, how to be successful. I can teach all that. I've done it all. I can teach what I did. But they all want to know how to sustain the passion you felt in the beginning of a relationship, because you could feel it very easily right now until you get burned many times and then you shut down. Remember the sour grapes thing? It's too much trouble. It's a bother. Why should I do that? I don't need that. I can do everything I need. What do I need a man for? Women say to themselves. Men say, why do I need the trouble? I can just go online and have sex. Say, so from man's point of view, women are trouble. There's an old phrase. I might write a book called that. Women are trouble. But from a man's point of view, you can't live with them, but you can't live without them. Men know they need women, unless they're gay. That's a different story altogether. But you look at breakups, men are like within a few months, they're already having sex with somebody. Women take 9 years quite often. And they're kind of like, how dare him? How could he just treat me like whatever to just go off and be with another person? It's because we're different. Men need love. Women need love, but men primarily get love through sex. Okay. When a woman has sex with a man, she's sending a message to him that he's alpha, because this is the monkey part of the brain. This is like everything to a man, to his testosterone levels, is a woman wanting to have sex with him. And so if he can persuade a woman to have sex with him, even if he had to pay her, it doesn't even matter. In his mind, the primitive brain thinks, I'm a king. I'm the best monkey around. That's why she wants me. And that's also why they want you to have an orgasm, because monkey women only have orgasms when your DNA is the best DNA. This is actually tested. It's called sperm competition. You can read about it on Wikipedia. I'm not going to talk about it now. It's very, very funny. All these things that happen in sex, which we just kind of go, why does that happen? Like women make a lot of noise. Well, that's so that neighboring monkeys will come over and expand the DNA pool. Because you don't have monkeys that have the same DNA with you. You want to combine it with outside the pool, and the combination of differences makes something better. So this is all evolutionary wise. So a woman's actually making all that noise. She's calling to the other monkeys, come, I'm ovulating. We're all animals, and we also spiritual beings, integrating the higher values of spirituality into our body And right now, if anybody wants to self-actualize, the doorway to that is to acknowledge the part of you that needs intimacy. And if you don't go after intimacy, if you don't know that you really need that, and if you don't feel it, something's wrong with you, and you need to find the reasons why and open up to that. And the reason women don't feel the need for intimacy is that, one, they don't have a way to sustain those passionate feelings. One of the practical examples, you go out with a guy, his job is to get in the door. And so he takes you to dinner, he does stuff, and you feel pressured by society that says you should have sex right away. And so you have sex right away, and he hasn't bonded with you mentally, he hasn't bonded with you emotionally, he's just bonding with you sexually, which never lasts because there's a recovery period in men. So when he ejaculates into you, he has to detach. He will detach. You can feel it pulling away. And to a certain extent, if he doesn't actually have a bond with you in his brain, in his mind, and in his heart, if there's no bond there, he'll feel disgusted that he just wasted his energy on you. He doesn't know it. He just doesn't like you that much. His brain will find reasons why he doesn't want to come back to you. He'll lose interest in you because his interest is primarily sexual. And just understand the biology of men. When men are when you're like wanting to have sex with a man, his testosterone shoots up, but now sex is over. Nobody's feeling the need. He doesn't feel, by the way, that desire to have sex because he just satisfied it. It's like eating a big meal. Now you're not hungry. And then you ate too much and there's nothing bonding you to her or to your mind. So it's very dissatisfying. So all this sex too soon is killing relationships. And then if you have if a man is sexual towards a woman and she hasn't yet raised her estrogen enough to be responsive to it, then sex will feel disgusting to her. She'll be like disgusted by this guy because he wants so much sex. Or basically, she opens her heart to him, imagining that he wants a relationship with her when he hasn't even thought about it. But she's imagining that because for her, she often feels a desire to have sex when a guy's a prospect for a relationship. If there's no prospect, why should I feel sexual towards him? So there's a priority that women have before they feel sexual. So if she does feel sexual because she's in a fantasy that this is the guy and he wants me, it's a fantasy. You can't know whether the guy's really the guy until you get to know them. But anyway, she fantasizes that raises her estrogen way up. She opens her heart to her. He doesn't call back because he's a little bit disgusted with her because he didn't bond with her. And now she feels deeply hurt and she'll be rejected. And then she'll just go, I can't trust men. I'm not going to open up to men. I shut down. And then in most cases, she grew up with divorced parents. That's another aspect to it. A dysfunctional father, a dysfunctional mother who can't have a relationship. And keep in mind, anybody who can't keep a relationship, both people are dysfunctional. If she's not loving a man, unless she's able to forgive him, move on and find another man, that's a different story. A woman that doesn't love men is a terrible role model for little girls and terrible for little boys. Okay, how's a boy supposed to know he's lovable if his father's not lovable? Or another man is not lovable by his mother. You learn everything through your mother. Mother gives birth to life. And little girl, how does she trust a man when her mother doesn't trust a man? Really, these are really challenging things today when suddenly divorce is everywhere, rather than people having to work it through. Am I saying you shouldn't get a divorce? No, but if you have a divorce, it should be a happy ending. It should be with a lot of love and recognizing that, we did our best. I love you. I forgive you. I realize I'm equally responsible for the problems. I'm not a victim of you. Good endings make good beginnings. And if you don't have that, you have a child, so sorry for your kids because they got a lot of things to overcome. So why do you read my books if you have children? So that your children are going to be able to not get messed up because you already messed them up. But if you change your ways because you are connected to them, you are the mother, they will start to change and they will grow. That's beautiful to know. Women have so much power to help their children. So the fathers, but women more. The children are always more connected to their mothers, affected by their mothers more.
True. And a little while ago, this is back to that real masculine and feminine. I remember you said something in one of your talks, which was that we really have to integrate both, because if we're too far on our feminine side or too far on our masculine side, obviously we experience totally different extremes. And 3 months ago, I had a baby and I felt—
Congratulations. First baby?
Sorry?
Is it first baby?
My second.
Okay, all right.
My second. I have 2 girls, and for the first time in so long, I felt so far over to my female side, and I could really recognize that. And obviously, my husband is out; he's working really hard, he's supporting us, And I thought, now I understand fully this concept of why we have to integrate both, because there was a stage there where I felt, where I'm not working, I'm not so independent myself. And there was an aspect of me that missed that, because I feel obviously I must really need both. And I do enjoy this stage, being at home, looking after her. But I realize as well, having that balance between the two, how important that is. And that really, sometimes when you hear something and then it might come to you a year or 2 years later and you go, now I understand that concept of why that's said.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And, it took me a while to figure out, receptivity is a primary feminine quality, like trusting is depending on someone for something. But when you're nurturing as a mother, what's so interesting, it's more than just femininity. It's the balance of masculine and feminine. Because as the male side of you wants to fix things and take care of things, that's our male side, solve the problem. Being a mother, your child has all kinds of needs. You have to figure out how to provide the solution.
And what they need.
And what they need.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing here is that's your male side. So how are you being balanced? You're being balanced because a child looks to you like a god. Child gives you total unconditional love. And that's what you need, is you need love. So it's not a neediness that I need you to do something for me. What they give to a mother is such beyond anything, which is you feel safe. That's a gift. I feel safe in your presence. I feel unconditionally loved in yourself and in your presence. I even, it's nearing the holidays for me right now. And I'm feeling, I have a little affirmation I do for myself. I'll share it because it's just up for me right now. And it's, I allow others to love me unconditionally. Just think about that for a second. I allow others to love me unconditionally, which basically means I don't have to hide anything about myself. I don't have to feel I have to be somebody different than who I am. See, we don't let people love us unconditionally because we don't love ourselves unconditionally. So it forces you like, okay, I'm not codependent. I'm not going to try to get someone to love me. I'm going to let them love me as I am. And that's actually a combination of my female, it's an integration of my female side in. That's what women have to really go for, is to let somebody love you unconditionally, which means set it up so that they can. And that's the way we have all these relationship skills, like in Beyond Mars and Venus, where you come home and you've been on your male side, and which is solving problems, which is being analytical, which is having to detach, having to rationalize. You can't go, oh, I'm so upset. There's traffic. You go, well, there's always traffic. You see, that's a rationalization. But when you're in traffic, you don't like it. There's emotions that come along with that. But if you're on your male side, there's always traffic. I'll get there on time. So relax. That's a way a male processes stress. And that's the way a woman on her male side will also process that stress, except that what she's missing out on is the connection to her female side, which is the emotions that come up when you're in traffic or you're being annoyed by someone. There's emotions that are being pushed down. So every negative emotion you have, if processed correctly, is an opportunity to raise your estrogen and then solidify that state by then focusing on the positive. Like I'm driving, I'm in traffic. And so you let yourself feel the frustration. I wish this traffic wasn't here. I'm so disappointed. I'm going to be late. I'm concerned about it. What will happen if I get there on time? I won't get it. And then, what your male side does is says, don't worry about it. You can only do what you can do. But the female side has an emotional reaction, and the benefit of attending to, looking at those emotions, feeling them, is estrogen goes up. But now if you use those emotions to then complain to your partner, I'm frustrated with you, estrogen doesn't go up. Testosterone goes up because you're trying to change him. So to embrace your feelings is to feel them for a moment, a short period of time, notice that this is what I'm feeling, and then notice, okay, what would I really like? And then you see more clearly that your expectations are unrealistic. So, but first you feel, and then what would I wish? How do I wish things could be? What do I want? And then what am I happy about? What am I grateful for? I'm grateful I have a car. Look at these people riding the bus. I mean, it's a long way to get your license, to get a car, to get a job. I went through all of that. I remember that. It's a big thing. They're like at the bottom of the mountain. Thank God you're halfway up the mountain just to own a car. Okay. So I'm grateful I've got a car. I'm grateful I got my health. I'm grateful I'm happy that I get to have this meeting that I'm going to. I get to express myself. I'm excited because I know I can do a good job. There's always the positive side to everything. Yeah. So you look at the negative side and then you go to the positive side. That's the place you want to live in. But inevitably, you'll come back to the negative and you come back to the positive. And that's where our brain is built. We're actually built. The one side of the prefrontal cortex sees what's wrong. The other side of the brain sees what's right. You have to have both those perspectives in order to solve problems, recognize what needs to be corrected. You can't just be looking at positive. You can't just be looking at negative. The problem is negative is addictive.
Yes.
See, that's the thing, because survival is based upon protecting yourself against danger. So basically everybody's been in a state. If you buy into the whole danger for you and, of COVID, for example, and if you're 80 years old, there's something to be dangerous about.
Yeah.
You're healthy. I can't get COVID. I'm a healthy 70-year-old and I never get the flu. I don't get colds. If I get a cold, I'm done in one night because I'm healthy. I have an immune system. I know how to do it. I work the system. I know how to be a healthy person. I have no concern. I try to, if my friends have COVID, I said, let me come visit you. I just had to put on a private jet with a friend because he had COVID. It's like, oh, I really want to be with you. And all the people on the plane, like our friends, 15, they're all vaccinated. They all got COVID. I didn't. So why would I be concerned about that? But see, when people are worried, what's going to happen is in your body. Every time you put on a mask, you do it because you're afraid. Your adrenaline levels go up and your cortisol levels go up. And ironically, then you activate circuits in your brain that go stronger and stronger to look at what's bad, to look at what's bad, to look at what's bad. And you can't look at what's good. And the key to this and retraining your brain is to realize that when you have negativity, it's very hard just to jump back to positivity without suppressing what your wants are, what your needs are, the sour grapes kind of thing. Not that important anyway, push it down. Well, I don't care anyway, go push it down. So what you do to change from negative to positive is very clever. It's what you feel you can heal. Is that if you're angry, what you do is you're on your negative side, right? Well, you go to another negative emotion, which is kind of like the opposite of anger, which is I'm angry. I'm going to go to my disappointment and sadness. Because you can't be angry unless you're disappointed. There has to be some expectation you had that was unrealistic. And then, and then people who stay angry insist that I have a logical reason to be angry. People are awful, so I'm going to be angry. When I look at the TV, I just look at all the deception and lies. I let myself be angry for a moment. But the unrealistic expectation is that people are all good. They're not. They're control freaks. The governments have always been corrupt and evil. Evil people are everywhere. Who starts these wars? Vietnam was started on a lie. The world has always evil in it and has good people too. And the good, it's like the arc of justice, the arc of goodness. It always comes in. But this is life. There's negative and there's positive. Which camp you want to be in? Be in both. Recognize the negativity is all primarily in you. And then you can let it go and find the positive in you. And then you don't dwell on what's happening in the world so much, except what you can do things about. And then you can do things, take action, not from negativity, but inspiration of, look, I can help, I can do, what can I do? Then it's not like passivity. I'm not about that at all, but I'm about following your heart when it's open, not when it's closed. So we're designed to have both these sides, the prefrontal cortex. If when people are negative, they're on the right, the right prefrontal cortex is blood flow there. And when they're positive, this is my left. I'm looking in the camera at myself, so let me change that. when I'm positive, I'm on my left. You can't see it on the camera, but anyway, if you put yourself in my position, right here is where you see positive. So when people are looking up to the positive, generally they're looking. When people are looking back, that's the part of the brain that looks at what are the problems, what's wrong, what needs to be improved, and so forth. And these are circuits inside of us. And as soon as you use any circuit to get what you want, that circuit grows stronger. And of course, we always want more. So in your relationship, and your partner's not giving you what you want more. And so you go right to the circuit that goes to the negative, rather than learning how to go to the positive. But how to get through that negative is such a clever idea. You can't. Usually if you're angry, it's hard to just come back to love right away. So you feel anger. The opposite of anger is some disappointment, some sadness. Then another feeling tone other than sadness is I'm afraid. See, sadness is it didn't happen. Fear is what could happen. You see, it's in the future. And then guilt is what should have happened. So you got yourself feel bad about how you contributed to the problem. It's hard for people to feel guilt when you're blaming your partner. That's why the Men Are From Mars ideas are so important, is because we can recognize they don't know what they're doing and we don't know what we're doing. And therefore we're both at fault. And you have to see how that is. And an example of that is women who are in relationships where they feel he's no longer the guy who was there for me. There's no longer a passion. There's no longer interest. He ignores me, or he argues with me. He doesn't hear me. I feel isolated. I feel lonely next to the man I used to love. Okay, well, just get you used to love him and you're not loving now. So you can feel guilty about how negative you are now, but you can't feel guilty about how negative you are because you see yourself as a victim. You think it's all his fault. So, but you have to realize, in order to release yourself from anger, you also have to feel guilt. You have to feel sadness, you have to feel fear, and then you have to see my part of it. As long as you're a victim, you'll always feel at the effect of someone instead of the power that comes when you realize I'm part of the problem. Then you can solve the problem by changing yourself rather than changing the other person. And there's 100 ways to explain that in terms of behaviors that people do wrong because they don't know better. A lot of things people know better and they just do it. That's not what I'm talking about. There's 100 things that people do in relationships that they think are right. they can't change it. It's like, for example, women will always say to me when they're unhappy and want to leave a marriage, they'll say, I give and I give and I don't get back. And I say, well, that's called overgiving. That's your problem. That's codependence. You never overgive. You should only give from a place of having received. Then it's a free gift. You receive, you get from that. You don't give to get. If you're a woman, that's your biggest problem. So then later you say, oh, I've been so mistreated and it's all he didn't do for me. Look what I did. I did this and I did this and I got nothing back. You overgave and then you resented. Men need to overgive. A man, basically, he's the guy who he'll say the opposite. He says, hey, no matter what I do, it's never enough to make her happy. And I say to him, well, you did foolish things. He said, what are you talking about? I made all this money. I said, money doesn't do it. If you're in survival level, if you're at low level of survival, money does it. They did a Harvard study showing that up to about in America, I think this is years back, but back then it was like $100,000. Making more money up to $100,000 made both people happier and happier. It's good for the relationship automatically because you needed the money. But then there's a plateau from 100 to 200,000 where it doesn't get better and it doesn't get worse. And then after 200,000, it gets worse on average because you don't need the money anymore. It's like a comedian said, I'm much happier than Bill Gates. And they said, you want to know why? I said, because if I see a $20 bill on the ground and I pick it up, I'm happy for a week. Bill Gates will see a $20 bill. He won't even pick it up. It's too much of a trouble. See, when you have so much, you have to have more to become happier. And people don't, and to be happier, you have to know what you need. And so coming back to single women, single men, when women realize what they need, then they can start feeling that need and be motivated to get that need. And as they fulfill that need, it's the need of their female side. So what I'm going to do right now is just say, once you move into the modern world and you don't need a man for survival and security, what do you need a man for? You need a man to help you come back to your female side, because you've already gone to your male side to fulfill this need to achieve. You've gone to your male side to be in control of your life. So I want to be in control of my life. Nothing wrong with that. But once you're in control of your life, you need a man who will be there for you so you can go out of control, yield, allow someone to influence you, depend on them to feel happier. You can be happy on your own, but you can be happy on your own, but with a man who you can open yourself up to and he'll come in, you can become happier. And that's where you need differences for that. But when women are way on their male side, really, they don't feel either their need for a relationship, and where men are, because our biology is different, we can be very independent, and that makes us want relationship more. The more successful a man is, the more he wants to have sex. That's the first priority. You may not want all the stuff that goes with it, but he's going to basically become very horny if he feels worthy of love. That's why you get these alpha guys want to have sex all the time. I'm an alpha. I want to have sex practically every day. Now notice in the winter, it goes down a little bit, but then once you're springtime and summer, because I also practice something that not every man yet knows how to do, which is how to have orgasms while ejaculating. So I never ejaculate, but I'm orgasmic, can last a long time to bring a woman open her up to higher levels of ecstasy she's never experienced. You need a man to do that, but you also have to open your heart to do that. That's why in the beginning you get glimpses of those high levels, because you're in a fantasy world that thinks you're going to get what you need. Yeah. And then when it doesn't fulfill in this fantasy way, then you go, I can't get it. It hurts too much to have a need and I have it fulfilled. So I don't really care that much. You become jaded by your own unrealistic expectations. But is it an unrealistic expectation to have lasting romance and passion? It's not, if you know how to do it, but you don't know how to do it. Is it unrealistic to expect to become rich and famous? Completely. But if somebody teaches you how to do it, not unrealistic. And to expect it every day is not going to happen. You know, for me, I was canceled 25 years ago. You know, all this cancel culture thing, it started with gender. And I became so big in the 90s, is like it foiled their plan to neutralize the sexes. See, that's all part of a plan to weaken humanity. Mm-hmm. When I was in Egypt, I've been all around the world, and I was having a conversation with the mayor of this little village that owns the pyramids. Okay, you know, he has the key basically, but this was a long time ago, and he's the lineage of the mayors, and he's in that family. It's kind of like a family thing. And we were talking about their culture and everything. And he told me, he said, you know, when the Jews were the slaves of the Egyptian pharaohs, they subjugated these people to accept slavery by making it a rule that women were only allowed to do male's work and men had to raise the children and do female work. Oh. They instituted, and you still see that in the Jewish religion to a great extent. Wow. This role reversal goes on where the woman controls so much. You know, everybody's got these issues too. I don't want to just label them, but I'm just saying that was an interesting insight for me. I could never find a Google search on that, but that was right from the horse's mouth. There's a tradition there. So that's very interesting, because you look at our society now, which is so in role reversal. What we have is very weak and submissive people. You know, they're all wearing masks because they say wear masks. When, come on, there's no danger here unless someone's vulnerable. They should stay home and be protected. But for all of us that are healthy and not drugged up on drugs, what's the worry for us? And if you have a vaccination that protects you, then how does my not being vaccinated affect you? Well, you can transmit it. And I go, well, so can you. People who are vaccinated can transmit it. So there's no critical thinking here because people are in fear. If you generate fear, isolation, and separation, what happens is people don't have critical thinking. Because as soon as you have fear, you'll believe whatever the authorities say, because you're like a child. You're having a brain state, which is the brain state of theta. Theta is the state of deep hypnosis and dream state. You're in a fantasy world. All children up to the age of 7 are in a theta state. They're absorbing and they're learning. Everything is in a state of hypnosis. They're just absorbing as true, just taking it all in. That's why they want you to go to their preschools as well now. They want you to get away from parents who think critically and just follow the rules. I just saw today that at my high school here, all these high school kids with their masks on and everything. And there's no chance they're going to have anything happen, but they're wearing their mask and the light is there. And, you know, in the light, they have a little, on the light turns green. It says you can cross the walk. Okay. So you can cross when it turns green. Well, I'm in the left turn lane over here. There's no cars coming. It's a green light. They're all sitting there waiting for the rule to say cross the street. Now, I would always, as a teenager, cross the street if there's no cars coming. Are you kidding? What's the big? They're all. And then there was a guy who was not wearing a mask who walked across the street. He's a free thinker. It's like if there's a reasonable need to do something, do it. But right now we've gone into fear, which takes away critical thinking, and all we do is believe whoever we think is an authority. And that's why always, not just now, conflicts arise in families at holidays when you talk about politics or you talk about religion. Why? Because those are the two places in our lives where there are authority figures who rule over us. See, religion is something you just believe it, have faith. Government always lies to you, but they justify it because we have to keep our trade secrets. So these are authorities that control your life. And so you go right into like a child. You have no critical thinking when it comes to those things. And critical thinking means I can hear another point of view and not become upset with that person. Yes. Right now, I have some relatives, and if I talk about my point of view on COVID and this whole pandemic thing, what they're doing, the lockdowns and what it's doing to children and the masks and when I bring forth I just say the research. Okay, look at this that you don't hear on TV. They get upset. They get really angry. They can tell me their point of view. I don't get angry. That's very interesting. It's just there's people who are like a state of consciousness that says, let other people do what they want. And there's other people that are in this fear place where they can't have critical thinking. So anyway, those are the levels inside of us. And if you don't have intimacy, which is where our society is at, what happened for me is when in the 90s, Men Are From Mars was the biggest selling book in the world for a decade. Okay. It was so big in all the countries, #1 everywhere. I was on all the talk shows, on the Oprah shows, on the Today shows, and all the talks, everybody, CNN, even Barbara Walters did a 3-hour show with me. It was so big. And the powers that be said, wait a second, this is not the agenda. The agenda is men and women are the same. That's what's being taught in the universities. He's having everybody question that. And anybody who's ever been married knows that men and women are different. But when you don't know the differences, you're not going to get married, because you're always going to have unrealistic expectations. You're going to demand your partner be different than who they are, instead of learning to love your partner, which will bring out the best in them. And it's not just women that aren't loving men as men. They don't know what men need, and women and men don't know what women need, because when women want to express their discontent, men jump in and say, don't worry about it. You're overreacting. It's not a problem. Why are you being so negative? There's a reason. She's stressed. She needs to express, learn how to listen without trying to change somebody's point of view. So men don't do it. Men are just as at fault as women are at fault. It's we don't know what we're doing now, because the world is different. Like in my parents' generation, the 50s, they were married in the 40s, so they got married. This is the time. And that traditional situation, a woman would pick a man based upon his education and how much money he made and his and family qualities. Okay. So for my mother's expectations, that was about the same as for hers, as far as family status and so forth. They all went to Stanford. So there's sort of high level standard. My mother's very humble. My father's very humble. He worked at a job, but was well-paying job. He was in the oil business in Texas. Okay. It was a well-paying job then. Now, so her basic need was fulfilled. He provided for the family in a beautiful neighborhood with private police, the whole thing. Ironically, I grew up in that situation thinking I was the poorest kid in the world. And I had no problem with it. My mother had no problem with it, because we had the smallest house in one of the neighborhoods with millionaires. Not what I didn't know was that my parents could have bought a house like that, but they lived very frugally. So I didn't have this sort of arrogant, I'm better than you kind of thing. So this dynamic of I kind of feel like I've gone off the track here.
It's okay. It's fine. About your parents, that's okay.
The traditional relationship was such that if a man fulfilled the expectations that our society had of men, and women fulfilled the expectations that society had of women, then you didn't need to change your partner.
Yeah.
Now what's happening today is we have unrealistic expectations that your partner should fulfill. Here's one, like another simple one is women expect men to understand and empathize with women's irrational feelings. Men don't know how to do that. See, anytime you're angry and irritated or crying and upset, it's all irrational. It's emotional. There's nothing, I'm not saying you're bad, you're just emotional right now. And for there to be negative emotions, you have to be somewhat illogical. You can't, if you're logical, you have no negative emotions. So there is a place in the middle where you're emotional and you're logical at the same time. And that's called happiness. That's called forgiveness. That's called gratitude. See, that's when you're emotional and you're also logically recognize the truth. Everybody's doing their best. Life gets better and better if I get better and better. I deserve to be loved. I'm not inadequate. My partner deserves to be loved. Doesn't necessarily mean just because I love them, I'll stay with them. See, we have all these unrealistic notions, which is why often men don't say, I love you. Because if you say to a woman, I love you, she thinks it means you want to marry her. And even if she says, no, I don't think that, I'm a modern woman, I don't think that. Then when he leaves her, she's going to say, but you said you loved me. And he's going to be the bad guy. Men just don't want to be the bad guy. So they don't often want to say, I love you. They show it through their actions. So for the dating people we're talking to as well, how do you know he likes you and loves you, cares for you? His actions. He doesn't have to say it. He doesn't have to say it. He'll be afraid to say it until he really settles on, this is the one. And then he'll feel more comfortable saying it. But he won't have knowledge of the importance of saying it. So then he reads my book on dating. He learns that you have to say it. Women need to hear it again and again and again. And some women go, or some old-fashioned people just say, why do you have to say it? People, old-fashioned world customs are, you don't have to say I love you. So it's very traditional. Parents never said I love you to their kids. Husband and wife don't say I love you. But see, they didn't know how to create passion. See, passion is when a woman's having an orgasm, I love you. You're the one for me. I'm right there. The bigger ones. Tell me. You need reassurance. One of the basic needs for women is reassurance that I can trust you. One of the basic needs for men is appreciation that says, I am trusted. These are biological differences of priorities. And yes, there's a bleed over. Everything I say about men, women will relate to if they're more on their male side. Women will relate, men will relate to the female side. So too far on their female. That's where it gets a little confusing for people. And they say, well, I don't relate to those examples. And I basically, then you're in role reversal. You are in role reversal. And how do you know you're in role reversal? If you're having difficulty in your relationships. And if you're not having difficult, then ignore me. There's no problem. It's just that if you look at the amount of divorce, the amount of unhappy people, oh my gosh, people don't know the statistics. If you're listening to this show, you're pretty lucky in your life already because you're somewhat self-actualizing. You're wanting to learn how to be a better person. You're caring about relationship. This is already a higher state of consciousness. What we have in America is 70% of Black boys don't know their fathers. If you can imagine that, how can you be a man, how embody the masculine qualities that are good? What you'll have is what the qualities of a man who's too feminine. That means he gets angry. That means he's selfish. That means he's narcissistic. That means he's thinking about what I want. Because see, the feminine side is the selfish part of us. That's the irony here. Nobody understands masculine and feminine. Look at the women who come into my counseling session. It's always, they're unhappy because I want this and I didn't get it. I want this and I didn't get it. I want this and I didn't get it. I want. And when my partner says to me, do you think I'm selfish? I'm glad you're selfish, because when you want something and I do it for you, that means I'm going to be the hero. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just when people use their wants, their negativity to justify their wants, rather than learn how to give your partner what they need and they'll give you what you need. But another backwards thing that women don't know, when you give a man anything to get something, it will sabotage. You actually poison him because he's not getting appreciated for what he did. You're doing for him and expecting him to appreciate you. Appreciation. You get it backwards. It's all so backwards today because we're all in role reversal. Our culture is in role reversal. And what you've experienced by being pregnant and having children is the amazing joy of estrogen, massive amounts of estrogen, because you're getting unconditional love. And I'm not saying every woman needs to have children. We have plenty of women that aren't going to have children. That's good. That's great. They can work harder. They can be the nurses, not have a personal life, whatever. But they will be happy as long as they have an opportunity to come back to their female side, talking to a therapist, for example, talking to a girlfriend. Our Mars Venus coaches are trained in how to do what's called Venus talk, which is to move through those emotions. What I talk about in that first book I wrote 40 years ago. And that's what you feel, you can heal. And learning how to heal my emotions inside without the outer world changing, I was able to develop all the ideas of my books, because wisdom, creativity, commitment, caring, forgiveness, all the good qualities that we want come when you're responsible for your garbage inside, without depending on the outer world to change, but to keep coming back to the love in your heart. And that's a beautiful thing when you have little children around, and that, because you get that unconditional love where you can feel safe. And safety for women produces oxytocin. And again, what you are hearing, the world is so behind what I've developed here, but it's catching up. For example, I started out in 1900 and in the 90s talking about oxytocin. Finally, they did research in year 2000 and showed that women's stress level goes down when their body's making oxytocin. What makes oxytocin is when a woman is touched in a non-sexual way, when a woman feels safe. Okay, those are two things. So safe touch, attention, affection, and feeling safe. Oxytocin levels will go up. Now, why does that lower her stress? Because it doesn't lower men's stress. What does oxytocin do for a woman? What it does for a woman when she feels safe is it raises her estrogen levels. And that's why her stress goes down. So it's a woman's low estrogen that is directly correlated with increasing stress in her body.
Yes.
So what happens is that a woman today doesn't have to be, weak and dependent on a man. She can be strong and dependent on a man for certain things. So that would look like asking for help. See, when you ask for help, you're doing something to get what you want. That's your male side. And needing help is your feminine side. So there's an art to how to ask and get it. And that's something that women don't know how to do. The biggest complaint men have is women complain too much. But all they're doing is asking for more, and they're doing it in a way that doesn't work. Yeah. They're focusing on negativity to get what they want, rather than focusing on love to get what they want. They just don't know how to do it.
Coming from the wrong place. Yeah.
Yeah, because see, they weren't trained, because you didn't, in the past, you didn't ask for more because you already married a guy who already is giving exactly what you need. He's a good provider. You don't need anything more. That's why my parents never argued, never fought. There was harmony at home. It was amazing. What I don't see happening today that I experience, and that's because my mother felt my father was doing a good job, and her dream was to have 7 children. Imagine 5 boys, or 6 boys. There's only 1 girl, 7 children, six boys, and the woman was happy almost all the time. And they must have had enough sex to have 7 kids. I'm sure they stopped having sex like most couples, but they were happy. They're happy in their lives. Ironically, at my father's funeral, which is a fun story, we'll finish up soon, but it was, I saw at the funeral, there was a woman there. I don't know how old I was 35. And there was a 27-year-old woman who was a little bit younger than my sister, the one female in my family. And that could be my sister. So I went up to her, I said, well, why are you at my father's funeral? Yeah, thank you. And she said, oh, your father's always been so nice to my mother. And to me, he bought my car for me, which was my old car that I thought my dad sold. He gave to her. He paid for my college. He's always helped my family. He's an amazing guy, your dad. and what's interesting is he got more love from her than most of my brothers, because they're all like spoiled and taking for granted. But here, her mother was single, needing help, and my dad came along to help her. I'm sure he's having another family. And so I went to my mother. I said, Mom, I think there's somebody here who's like my sister. I think Dad has other kids. And my mother just said, yes, I've always thought that your father had other responsibilities. I said, did that upset you? And she said, no. You see, in my generation, if a man was successful financially and he could provide for his family as a priority, a woman didn't mind if he had other responsibilities, as long as we were number one. And that's such an important concept for people to get, that, men having affairs and whatever, this men have been doing it always if they do it the right way. And yet now we're at a higher level where we want to have monogamy. But for her, basically, because they didn't have the skills for passion, she lost interest in sex, and men don't. If they have a partner who's actually loving them in the newness of a relationship, and then also not taking them for granted. Because when you're married, it's so easy to take your partner for granted. But when they're like, you can't take them for granted when they're not married to you. So my dad taking care of her. And I also know my dad, I'm waiting to meet my sister or brother from Canada. Because my dad would go to Canada when I was growing up every week. He was drinking oil every week. He must have some family up there too. But my mother was happy, fulfilled, and if you look at marriages today, after 10 years, most women stop desiring sex. This is most, desiring sex. Now, if they practice my skills, they'll continue to desire sex. Okay. And why is that? Because when you have estrogen going up and you have a little testosterone, you have sexual desire. This is strong sexual desire. If your estrogen goes very high, then your testosterone naturally comes up without having to inhibit estrogen. See, when you're out solving problems, making money, you're making testosterone, but you're not having estrogen at the same time. Usually your estrogen's going down as you're going out. Unless, as you said, when you have a job or you're doing something where you feel supported, like raising a child, unconditional love, you're on your male side, solving problems all the time, running the house, running this person, caring for a person's life, what a masculine thing that is, but you're getting unconditional love at the same time. You're trusting it. And when you can trust, you're safe, your estrogen goes up and you just enjoy so much. And it's so great that you have a husband who can support you through that. Because now what we do is our government rewards women for being unmarried. Okay. If you have children without a husband, you get money from the government. How insane. It's rewarding women for being single. One of my clients, she kicked her boyfriend out of the house because even a guy living in her house, if guy was living in her house and she wasn't married, she could get college tuition paid for. Just insanity what we've done. And yes, I feel for people who are single, whatever, we should help them with relationship courses, and we should give more money to people who stay together. If we want to use college, if we want to use government to creep into your life that much, I'm not against a little of that. So reward couples who take classes on relationships, reward couples who stay together, give them money for that, which could just be tax deductions. If you're going to help single women, you should help married couples. We reward the positive and not reward the negative, but to support the people in need. That's very important, but we should all be treated the same. I mean, it's if you do well, you get more. That's the way the world is. If you can't do well, you get helped out. But if you do well, you get more. And the life will always, this equity thing is nonsense. And people don't understand this word inclusion, equality. First of all, equality. That's what I came out. I'm the major voice on this in the world. Is equality means recognizing differences, not sameness. Yes. So in their minds, equality is we're all the same. No, we're not. And in between men and women, it's the number one soreness in a relationship. So I got canceled completely. I've never been on national TV since the year 2000. My books are still number one in their categories all around the world, even other places. But it's the bottom line in America, not allowed on any of the big TV shows. 1, 2. Well, that's enough. It's equity, but I was trying to explain. People don't understand it. Equity means same outcome, regardless of what you put towards the out goal. We all get a prize. We all get paid the same. We all get the same opportunity. We get the same, not same opportunity to be judged based upon our competence and our character. Yes. If you have more competence and better character, you get paid more and you get more. And that getting more motivates other people to not be so lazy. And so what you've got there is a consciousness of masculine and feminine. Here's how it looks. The masculine side of us grows by achieving and accomplishing, by being of service to others, and gets rewarded based upon how successful they are. So you have children, but you also have the child who is sick or has a challenge, a problem. You often give more to that child in the family because they need more attention. They need more support. The parents give them more love, actually, because, I got to take care of you. I got to ignore the kid who's a high achiever. But the world will support the higher achiever. And so, see, this is two sides of us. One part of us earns it, and one part of us unconditionally deserves it. Yeah. And everybody in need deserves help. But in many cases, the way you help somebody, the old biblical phrase, which is rather than give a man fish, you teach him how to fish. And that's what we're missing. Even the prison system is horrible because they're not teaching these people how to fish. They're just paying $100,000 a year to protect society from them, or to threaten people, to punish them, which is insane. The lowest level of manipulation of behavior is punishment. All I've taught in the prisons, these are all people who have been punished by their parents, punished by life. The most people the most hurt people hurt others. That's the way the world is. So what you do is you re-educate them, you help them heal, you give them opportunities to get more and more and more based upon the growth that they prove. Right now, they kicked me out of the prisons in 2000 as well, because the answer was because they liked me, because they enjoyed themselves, because I made them happy. They're here to be punished. That's what they told me. They're here to be punished. And this is the world we live in. We're trying to get out of, where punishment isn't the major motivator, but it's wisdom and it's love and learning how to help people. Not just give people without them earning it, but giving them what they need to rise above this victim state that we have in the world today.
Such a beautiful interview. I could ask you many more questions, but I know I will wrap it up. And thank you so much for your insight, John. It's wonderful, actually.